Have you seen Trust No One, The Hunt for the Crypto King on Netflix? It's trending right now. I want to give you my point of view about the documentary. Should you watch it? Is it worth your time, or should you skip it because it's kind of boring? All that to come in this video, and I'm going to tell you exactly what was going down in the world of crypto during the whole Quadriga scandal, because I lived through it. Guys, if you're new to this channel, my name is Kyle Chasse. I've been in crypto for 10 years. On this channel, we go into deep dives into the world of crypto and tell you everything that you need to know about crypto to succeed. If that sounds good to you guys, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and let's get into it. Gerald Cotton. Is he alive or is he dead? We will get into that in just a bit and my opinions on that. But first of all, he created Quadriga CX, which was Canada's first ever Bitcoin exchange, created in 2013. And by 2017, good old Jerry Cotton was making millions of dollars. Life was good, no worries. But in 2018, the high life came to a screeching halt when Bitcoin fell from $20,000 all the way down to $3,000. And the users, the customers of Quadriga, started asking for their money back. This became a problem for good old Jerry because Jerry didn't have the money, because come to find out later, Jerry was actually taking the deposits from users and shipping that to offshore exchanges around the world. Good old Jerry just couldn't resist. Jerry instructed the customer support team to send out emails to everyone concerned and saying, guys, this is no fault of our own. We have the funds. They're in Canadian banks, but the banks just have frozen our accounts because they're not supporting cryptocurrency. People started to dig into this because a lot of people were complaining. Reporters were looking into it and asked, and the same response was given to reporters. Now, this seemed like a viable excuse at the time because it was true. Some banks were freezing accounts that were tied to cryptocurrency, and it did put some people off for some time. Not too long later, good old Gerald Cotton was found to be dead in India from Crohn's disease, which is a disease that nobody dies from. I mean, okay, people do die, but it's less than 3% mortality rate. And the mortality rate is even less for somebody that's young and healthy like good old Jerry. I mean, Jerry was hardly 30 years old and in a very healthy state. Every video that everyone has ever seen of Jerry shows him bouncing around like a 3-year-old toddler at Chuck E. Cheese. All the eyes point to Jen. Who is Jen, you might ask? Jen is Jerry's wife. Jen claims that she had no idea about the business, how it ran, or if the crypto was being sent to cold storage. But later, on-chain analysis found out that crypto was actually never sent to cold storage. So how would Jen even know that cold storage was around, or even what that was for that matter, if she wasn't involved in the business whatsoever? So a lot of suspicion started gathering around good old Jen. You know, imagine a lot of people are absolutely furious by now, as they should be, as they had the right to be, because they trusted good old Jerry with their money, and it was nowhere to be found. And it looked like they were not going to be getting it back anytime soon. So actually, a reporter flew out to India, in the city where Jerry was pronounced dead, and actually spoke to the doctor who confirmed that Gerald had died from Crohn's disease. However, come to find out, India is the #1 country in the world for fake death certificates. So in a country where a doctor makes less money than your average McDonald's worker, it wouldn't be hard to believe that if good old Jerry Cotton and his wife Jen slipped him a few $1,000s on the table, good old Doc is sticking to his story. Better believe it. So what do I think happened? You know, back in 2017, we were facing a lot of adversity. I mean, anything that a regulator or a governor or a critic could point to say, Bitcoin is bad, we need to stop it now, that was going to harm us and set us back on the path for adoption. So of course, this wasn't a good look, but was I surprised? No. Was this something that happened quite regularly? Well, hacks and these kind of things did happen quite regularly. For a well-known and public figure to run off with a bunch of people's money, that wasn't really that common. That's why this made such a big story, because everybody knew who Jerry Cotton was. And because it led to the speculation that he did rug pull and take everyone's money, which is what I think happened. You know, all the evidence, the fact that Crohn's disease doesn't really kill people, the fact that in the country that they're known for fake death certificates is where he happened to die, and the fact that they were off to go save the children or something in India on this whole journey when he happened to die. So that's kind of like heroic feat that wanted to paint him in the spotlight as some kind of heroism in his final days before his passing. This whole thing, not only to myself, but to everybody else involved, feels super, super scammy and fishy. One more thing that happened, just to save you from having to watch the movie, is at the funeral, the closed casket funeral, and nobody got to see the dead body, Jen and her family were partying. In fact, this disturbed Jerry's parents so much that they had to leave the event while Jen and her sister and friends were putting down shots and dancing around at Jerry's funeral. This is pretty disturbing. So what do I think happened? Well, I think that good old Jerry is off with good old Jen in a tropical island somewhere sipping pina coladas with $200 million in the bank. How could they do this, you might ask? Well, guys, he had $200 million at his disposal. It's not that difficult to get fake passports, facial reconstruction surgery, dye your hair, and have a new identity with that kind of money. It's quite simple, actually. Let's get into the security aspect, because there is a moral lesson that we should be learning here. We should be learning about, what the true nature of cryptocurrency is. The whole thing about Bitcoin is be your own bank. Custody your own money. When you go to the bank and you give the bank a $100 bill, it becomes their custody. They own it at the time. It might say on your phone, on your app, your bank app, that you have $100 in your account. But if that bank goes out of business or whatever, or they go bankrupt, you could lose that money. It's the same thing with cryptocurrency. Instead of keeping your crypto on exchanges and trusting them with your assets, you have the power to do that yourself. So you can keep your crypto on hardware wallets like a Ledger or a Trezor and keep them off of exchanges. Only keep your funds on exchanges when you want to trade them or get into a position or out of a position or buy a certain cryptocurrency. But if you're just putting all of your faith into a centralized exchange and thinking that it's going to be all good, you might become the next Quadriga victim. If you haven't watched a documentary already, I suggest that you don't. It was actually really boring and slow. I've told you pretty much everything that you need to know. So if you do happen to have an hour and a half of extra time, and if you don't feel like watching the first season of The Bachelor for the 5th time, go and check it out. It's worth a watch, I guess, if you have the time to spare. But I would like to know your opinion, guys. What do you think happened? Were you around during the Quadriga scandal? Have you heard about it recently? And what do you think happened? Do you think Jerry actually passed away? And if this is interesting to you, if you want to learn more about the basics of crypto and even more advanced things and learn security, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Guys, that's going to wrap it up. I will catch you in the next one. See ya.